Now, my guests, Doctors Dennis and Jen Clark, have spent years cultivating and teaching thousands on how to live in the manifest presence of God, walk in wholeness, hear God clearly, and have their prayers answered. Dr. Jen, what was your background before you even met Dennis?
I was a certified Christian counselor, a degree in psychology. So those were credentials, but I was a very frustrated Christian.
Why?
Because I was in the church and working in counseling, working with people who were troubled, and I just didn't see people change much. Maybe with salvation, but then I saw people who were wounded. One friend had a nervous breakdown. People would answer altar calls, go to Christian counselors, and I didn't see them getting better.
I guess you would call a counselor. I had a prognosis for your future. What was that?
Right. She was my mentor. She was also a Christian counselor. And I found out later, after Dennis and I were married, that she had recommended to him that he not marry me because she said I was too emotionally damaged to ever amount to anything in Christianity, because unless you're pretty well adjusted when you get saved, you're limited.
That's pretty sad. So, you went to a meeting, you were an intercessor. Your husband had died. Mm-hmm. Dennis went to that meeting.
And they had us all in a room praying, and suddenly a young woman had an emotional meltdown and ended up on the floor, writhing, crying, holding her head. And I thought to myself, right there on the floor, 5 to 10 years of counseling.
And Dennis, you didn't think anything of it. I bet that was normal.
Well, listen to what happened. We were standing there, everybody was just staring at her. And Dennis went over to her and got down on one knee, and he started praying with her. He was praying. Emotional strongholds were coming down. Demonic activity was just flying off, because you deal with the negative emotion that gives it ground. And that woman was getting free. And in less than 10 minutes, she was up on her feet with the Holy Spirit all over her, a smile on her face. And I thought, this is huge. This could mean so much for the church worldwide. I mean, if the church could be healed if they knew this.
So, long story short, you two get married, and Dennis, you take her through what God has taught you. She gets totally free of something the psychiatrist said there's no hope for, but you live in a secret place 24/7. How did you learn? Way back, you did the same thing I did. You read Brother Lawrence's book.
Right.
Tell me about him.
Well, I saw this was a monk that lived in the 1600s that washed dishes for a living, but he practiced the presence of God. Everything was coming out of the love of God and out of that nature of God, and it was consistent. And I understood what he was doing and experienced it, but I didn't hear other people talk about the same thing. And the primary thing I got out of his, where my spirit really witnessed, was he doesn't go in and out of prayer. It's special time and all the time. And that's what the Holy Spirit had taught me as a baby Christian in the school of the Spirit. I wanted to go to 12 different Bible schools, and God said, no, school of the Spirit first, and I'm going to teach you things. And to this day, it's proved to be the foundation for everything that we teach and preach now.
Well, after you got married, you took about 60 days.
Yes.
For this transformation in your wife, and you put this in a course, and what works for her, what works for you, what works for everyone. Jen told me that her big problem, and you told me the same thing, was she believed sincerely in her mind, but she didn't know how to get it into her heart. And I happen to believe that most believers have that identical problem. I know that I had it and I still have it. So tell me
we're going to
about
pray
that.
for you. Give you an example. I was traveling with a team of pastors, 15 or so pastors, right, from different parts of Canada and the States. And we went to this church in Canada that has probably 300 people. And they were passing the microphone around to the different preachers. They handed it to me. I said, I want everyone here who feels unspiritual even though you're in church and you feel like you're hard to receive. I had, out of that 300, I had 18 people come over in the corner and say, I never know what's going on. I don't understand this. I guess I'm a head person, but I'm not spiritual. In less than 5 minutes, I had all 18 either sensing the peace of God like they had never done before, or cried, or were intoxicated in the Spirit. 18 out of 18. And the key was, other pastors came up and they go, you never catch me doing that, asking for those people. And then another one said, how did you do that? And it was getting them from the head to the heart. It's like real estate, location, location, location. We have to change the location if it's not working for you because you all have the same equipment.
Now, Jen, after you had the ministry from your husband, Dennis, you met your former counselor again. What happened?
She looked at me, her eyes got big, and she said, what happened to you? I was that transformed. I could hardly remember the person that I had been before.
Describe that person just for a moment.
I was wounded, defeated, hurting, anxious. I was so anxious and lived with low-grade anxiety. And of course, we know that Brother Lawrence walked in peace. Well, that's the way. Jesus gave us his peace. That's the way we're supposed to live. That's the way we know we're abiding in the vine, that we're connected in the secret place with him because we sense his presence. We sense his peace. And this is what Dennis taught me. I know I got a lot of woundings. I'm healed. That's true. But the main thing, I was hungry for God. I'd read the books. I'd read Brother Lawrence. I'd read deeper experiences of famous Christians, and I wanted to live like that. And that's what Dennis taught me to do. He taught me to go to the secret place and live out of the secret place.